In an increasingly complex landscape of international trade and regulation, Nvidia faces a new challenge that could threaten its substantial business in China. The stakes are particularly high as the Chinese government enforces stricter energy use regulations that may impact the sales of Nvidia's popular chips. The National Development and Reform Commission (NDRC), China's top economic planner, has issued guidance urging local companies to adopt more energy-efficient technologies in their data centers. According to a report from the Financial Times, this directive could jeopardize Nvidia's sales of its H20 chip, a product designed to comply with U.S. export restrictions but which currently fails to meet the new energy standards. Nvidia's H20 chip has been a key component in the company's strategy to penetrate the Chinese market, which represents a significant portion of its revenue. However, the NDRC's emphasis on energy efficiency indicates a shift in the regulatory environment that could reshape the competitive landscape for semiconductor manufacturers. Our products provide superb energy efficiency and value in every market we serve, an Nvidia spokesperson stated, adding that the company believes export controls should evolve to allow American firms to offer the most efficient products while still adhering to national security objectives. The implications of these developments are profound for Nvidia, especially as the global demand for artificial intelligence technologies continues to surge. With shares dropping over 4% in early trading and nearly 15% year-to-date, the company's stock market performance reflects investor concern over its ability to navigate these regulatory hurdles. Analysts suggest that if Nvidia cannot adapt its offerings to meet the new standards, it may lose a critical market segment to competitors who can provide compliant products. In parallel, the U.S. government has also intensified its scrutiny of foreign investments, particularly from China. On the same day, reports surfaced about the Biden administration adding dozens of Chinese entities to its export restrictions list, including units of Inspur, a significant player in the tech ecosystem. This move underscores a growing trend of tightening regulations aimed at limiting the influence of foreign entities in sensitive sectors, particularly those related to technology and defense. Such actions reflect a broader geopolitical context where the U.S. and China are entangled in an ongoing trade and technology rivalry. Investors and companies alike are grappling with the implications of these policies, which could have far-reaching consequences for innovation and collaboration in the tech sector. Adding to the intrigue, recent revelations surrounding Elon Musk's SpaceX highlight the complex relationship between American technology firms and Chinese investment. Court records indicate that SpaceX has allowed Chinese investors to acquire stakes in the company through opaque channels such as offshore entities in a bid to circumvent regulatory scrutiny. This practice raises questions about transparency and the potential risks associated with foreign investments in defense-related companies. As companies like Nvidia and SpaceX navigate these turbulent waters, the future remains uncertain. The interplay of regulatory changes, market dynamics, and geopolitical tensions will likely continue to shape the landscape for technology firms operating in or with ties to China. For Nvidia, finding a way to align its products with new energy regulations may be crucial, not only for maintaining its competitive edge but also for securing its position in a rapidly evolving global market. As these developments unfold, stakeholders will be closely monitoring both the strategic responses from major tech players and the implications for the broader U.S. China relationship. In a significant diplomatic move, China's Ministry of State Security has briefed German diplomats and business leaders on its newly revised anti-espionage law. This event marks the first time the Chinese government has provided such a briefing to foreign nationals, signaling both a desire for transparency and an effort to enhance business relations with Germany. The ministry stated that this initiative is part of its broader strategy to foster a market-driven and rule-of-law, internationally friendly business environment, which it sees as essential for promoting high-quality economic development with Germany. The revised anti-espionage law, which came into effect last July, has drawn attention for its expanded definition of what constitutes espionage, as well as the broadened investigative powers granted to national security law enforcement agencies. A spokesperson for the ministry emphasized that the revisions are legitimate measures to safeguard national security, asserting national security is a prerequisite for national development and also the cornerstone for maintaining an open and stable business environment. This development occurs against a backdrop of heightened scrutiny on China's legal frameworks and their implications for foreign businesses operating within its borders. Experts have pointed out that while the Chinese government aims to attract foreign investment, the vagueness and expansiveness of the anti-espionage law may create an environment of uncertainty. This could deter companies from engaging in business activities in China, especially those that involve sensitive technologies or data. The briefing also reflects China's ongoing diplomatic efforts to strengthen ties with key European nations, particularly Germany, which is one of China's largest trading partners in Europe. As geopolitical tensions rise and international trade becomes increasingly fraught, China's outreach to Germany could be seen as a strategy to solidify its economic partnerships and mitigate potential fallout from Western criticisms regarding human rights and national security issues. Meanwhile, on the other side of the globe, the United States has released its annual threat assessment, labeling China as the top threat to American national security. The report highlights China's coercive actions towards Taiwan and its extensive cyber operations targeting U.S. interests as evidence of the growing military capabilities that could challenge U.S. influence in the Pacific. It warns that Beijing will continue its coercive and subversive malign influence activities to undermine U.S. standing both domestically and internationally. In response to the report, Chinese officials dismissed the findings as biased, asserting that the U.S. exaggerates the threats posed by China. This contentious exchange underscores the complex and often adversarial relationship between the two global powers, which is further complicated by China's strategic maneuvers in Southeast Asia and its close ties with nations such as Thailand. Thailand recently faced international backlash after deporting a group of Uyghur refugees back to China, drawing criticism from human rights organizations and Western governments. This action appears to be a tactical decision by Bangkok to strengthen its relationship with Beijing, which has been actively seeking the repatriation of Uyghur individuals. The Thai government's willingness to prioritize diplomatic relations with China over human rights considerations reflects a broader trend in Southeast Asia, where nations often find themselves navigating the delicate balance between U.S. and Chinese influences. As China continues to assert its influence on the global stage, diplomatic relations with countries like Germany and Thailand will be crucial in shaping its economic and political future. The attempts to clarify its legal frameworks, coupled with its military posturing, indicate a multifaceted strategy aimed at securing its national interests while managing complex international relationships. The coming months will likely reveal how these dynamics unfold, particularly as the U.S. and its allies respond to China's assertiveness in various regions. In a rapidly changing global economic landscape, the Wall Street Journal is taking a proactive step by seeking a new reporter to cover the intricacies of the Chinese economy. With China's once unprecedented growth now facing significant challenges, this new role comes at a crucial time for understanding how economic policies and international relations are evolving. China's economy, which enjoyed a 40-year boom fueled by free trade, currently finds itself entangled in a complex web of challenges. The escalating trade tensions with the United States, a shrinking workforce, and a deepening property crisis have raised questions about the sustainability of its growth. The Biden administration's America First strategy has further complicated these dynamics, positioning the U.S. as both a critical trading partner and a formidable geopolitical rival. This historic clash has profound implications both for the Chinese economy and global commerce, notes WSJ's job announcement. As Western companies seek to extricate themselves from dependency on Chinese supply chains, driven by fears of tariffs and geopolitical instability, China is attempting to pivot its economy. Beijing's ambitions under Xi Jinping's leadership include implementing costly industrial policies aimed at not only weathering the current economic storm but also surpassing the U.S. in terms of economic influence. This strategy is contributing to a division of the global economy into blocs aligned with either Washington or Beijing. To navigate this multifaceted landscape, the Wall Street Journal is searching for a reporter who can delve deep into economic statistics, trade data, and demographic trends while also telling the stories of real people and businesses affected by these global shifts. The ideal candidate would have excellent analytical skills and the creativity to convey complex stories through various formats, the announcement states. Meanwhile, China is also mending its relationship with the tech sector, which it now sees as vital for economic recovery. Officials have recently praised the role of technology platforms in driving consumption and job creation, signaling a potential shift from the stringent regulations imposed during the past few years. Vice Premier Zhang Guoqing emphasized the importance of the platform economy in enhancing social resource allocation and fostering new productive forces. This renewed support for the tech sector could bolster domestic demand and help stabilize employment as the government seeks to mitigate the impact of the trade war with the U.S. However, not all observers are optimistic about the future. Analysts warn that the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods could ultimately burden American consumers and businesses, creating a ripple effect that may hinder economic growth. The Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index recently reported a significant drop, reflecting rising anxieties about inflation and economic policy uncertainty. Frequent gyrations in economic policies make it very difficult for consumers to plan for the future, said Joanne Su, Director of Consumer Surveys at the University of Michigan. As China grapples with its economic challenges and recalibrates its strategies, the WSJ's new position will be critical for providing nuanced insights into these developments. With the global economy increasingly interconnected, the ability to report on the evolving narratives around trade, technology, and geopolitics will be essential. Looking ahead, the interplay between China's economic policies and U.S. trade strategies will likely continue to shape not only the future of the Chinese economy but also its role in global commerce. As the Wall Street Journal embarks on this search for a new economics reporter, it underscores the growing need for in-depth coverage of these vital issues that will undoubtedly influence the course of international relations and economic strategies in the years to come. In a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape, the United States defense industry stands at a critical juncture. As competition with China intensifies, experts warn that an ingrained culture of risk aversion within the U.S. defense sector could undermine its ability to innovate and adapt. At a recent meeting of the U.S. House Select Committee on China in Huntsville, Alabama, Lockheed Martin's Vice President of Global Supply Chain Brian O'Connor articulated a pressing concern: if we're really going to be innovative, we've got to accept failure. His remarks highlight a growing consensus among lawmakers and defense contractors that the current bureaucratic approach stifles creativity and hampers technological advancement. O'Connor pointed to the excessive fear of failure and the burdensome regulatory framework as primary culprits that prevent the swift integration of new technologies. The big defense OEMs and major subsystem enterprises never want to fail, he explained, emphasizing that this reluctance negatively impacts their reputation and stock value. The result is a cautious strategy that stifles innovation at a time when the U.S. must keep pace with advancements in military technology, particularly in critical areas like hypersonic weapons and advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Congressman Carlos Jimenez echoed these sentiments, criticizing the cumbersome validation and approval processes within the Department of Defense (DoD). He likened the experience of seeking technological approval to undergoing a rectal exam, underscoring the frustrations that defense contractors face. Jimenez lamented, "We don't innovate like we used to because the system's too rigid," pointing to the nimbleness of private sector innovators such as SpaceX, which has achieved multiple successful launches in quick succession compared to the slow pace of traditional defense programs. The ramifications of this cautious culture extend beyond innovation. Experts at the conference highlighted how overregulation has driven smaller firms out of the defense sector, drastically reducing competition. Parker Chapman, Senior Director of Legislative Affairs at the Aerospace Industries Association, reported a staggering 40% decline in the number of small suppliers over the past decade. This consolidation has led to what defense analysts refer to as the Valley of Death, a perilous gap between developing prototypes and adapting them for military applications. In addition to the challenges posed by an overly cautious business environment, the U.S. defense industry faces an alarming dependence on Chinese-made components and semiconductors. A January 2024 report from GovINI revealed that over 40% of the semiconductors essential for U.S. Department of Defense systems are sourced from China. This increasing reliance not only compromises national security but also raises concerns about the operational integrity of U.S. military assets. For instance, the Navy's newest Ford-class aircraft carriers rely on thousands of Chinese-sourced semiconductors, creating a vulnerability that could be exploited by adversaries. The pressing need for reform is evident. Experts are calling for a cultural shift that embraces controlled risks and reduces bureaucratic hurdles, enabling the defense industry to innovate more rapidly and effectively. As the U.S. grapples with these challenges, it risks falling further behind China, particularly in emerging technologies that are reshaping military capabilities. In conclusion, the U.S. defense industry must confront its fear of failure and adapt to a more dynamic and competitive landscape. By fostering an environment that values innovation over risk aversion, the industry can not only enhance its technological prowess but also reinforce national security in an era marked by increasing geopolitical tensions. The path forward will require bold leadership and a willingness to accept failure as a stepping stone to success, ensuring that the U.S. remains at the forefront of global defense capabilities. The recent surge in diplomatic activity between the United States and China has captured the attention of global observers, particularly as the two nations navigate a complex landscape of trade tensions and strategic rivalry. On March 26, 2025, the top trade envoys from both countries engaged in a significant video call, marking the first direct communication since Donald Trump resumed the presidency. This encounter comes at a time when relations between the world's largest economies are increasingly strained due to escalating tariffs and other economic disputes. During the call, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng exchanged serious concerns regarding each other's trade policies. The U.S. characterized the meeting as an introductory session, while the Chinese State Council described it as candid and in-depth. He Lifeng specifically expressed worries about the ongoing U.S. imposition of tariffs justified by issues related to fentanyl, the ongoing Section 301 investigations, and proposed reciprocal tariffs. Meanwhile, Greer articulated U.S. concerns over China's unfair and anti-competitive trade practices. Both sides acknowledged the necessity for a stable economic relationship, emphasizing the importance of ongoing dialogue to address mutual concerns. The willingness to maintain communication is a noteworthy development, particularly given the backdrop of domestic pressures and international expectations surrounding trade relations. Greer's office reiterated this sentiment, highlighting that future engagements would be crucial in mitigating tensions. This diplomatic exchange reflects a broader evolution in U.S. foreign policy towards China, one that has shifted from engagement to a more competitive stance. According to Dr. Yen Chang Bennett, a professor at George Washington University, American narratives regarding China have oscillated significantly over the years, moving from a romanticized view of China as a partner for modernization to recognizing it as a strategic rival. This transformation has been underscored by recent administrations acknowledging China's assertive geopolitical maneuvers and economic policies that threaten U.S. interests. In parallel developments, the U.S. government has intensified its efforts to restrict technological cooperation with Chinese firms. On the same day as the trade envoys call, the White House announced the addition of approximately 60 Chinese tech companies and research institutions to its entity list, a move aimed at curbing China's advancements in military-related artificial intelligence. Analysts interpret these actions as indicative of a broader strategy to leverage trade restrictions as a means of extracting favorable concessions from China, echoing Trump's deal-making approach. As tensions mount, the implications for both nations are profound. The growing list of sanctions and restrictions could hinder China's technological growth and innovation while also prompting retaliatory measures that may further complicate U.S. China relations. This escalating dynamic raises questions about the sustainability of bilateral trade and economic interactions, with analysts suggesting that a pragmatic, interest-driven approach will be necessary for both nations moving forward. In conclusion, the recent dialogue between U.S. and Chinese trade representatives signals a cautious willingness to engage despite deep-seated tensions. As both countries navigate this challenging landscape, the focus will likely remain on addressing contentious trade issues while managing broader geopolitical rivalries. Observers will be watching closely to see if this initial communication leads to more substantive engagements or if it merely serves as a temporary reprieve in an increasingly fraught relationship. The future of U.S.-China relations hinges on the ability of both sides to balance competition with cooperation, especially in the realms of technology and trade.